Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Awad Al-Shukeli. I am the Chief Technology Officer at eMushrif. And today I have prepared for you a talk about generative AI and how it's disrupting the startup playbook. And also the talk is going to be, I'm going to start it by just telling you about what is generative AI, what it can do, and why should you care as a startup if you are a startup, and the different activities and tasks that you do as part of being a startup will be changed because of, or changed because of the capabilities available to you from generative AI. So we're going to go through some of the tools that are available right now, the future tools as well, and what you can do to get ready for that future as well. All right, I'll start the talk with the obvious. I assume all of you used ChatGPT before, a text-to-text model, large language model. Everyone used it, everyone loved it. And of course, that's not the only type of generative AI. You have other types that are text-to-image, to video, to audio, or whatever. And what makes it special, what makes it different from other types of AIs is that actually it generates new content based on the content that you give it and based on the training data that it was given before. The main difference between it and the classical AI models that we had in the past is that classical models are specialized, specific to perform specific function. For example, the classical AI models, they're designed to predict, to classify, to recommend, to cluster for very specific use cases. Where generative AI is different is more general. It tries to mimic how we human generalize things and be able to achieve different variety of tasks by its capability to generate new content. Now, with that new content that gets generated, you have emergent capabilities, some of them that you see over here, such as searching, finding new content, learning, able to ideate, find new ideas, plan, and schedule things. You're able to analyze and critique current content and knowledge that you have. It gives you, or it allows you to find different possibilities and options and help you decide a course of action. Help you to create new content in a variety of formats, whether it's text, image, video, audio, whatever. It allows you to iterate on existing knowledge that you already have. Document in the form of either summarization or fleshing out existing content that you have. It makes documenting easier, communicating easier across multiple languages and between teams and between different stakeholders, and finally automating whatever workflows or processes that you might have. Just generative AI, one of its emerging capabilities, it will help you to automate those things. Now, why should you care as a startup? Why this is relevant to you? Before I talk about that, let me talk about the two main constraints that you as a startup have. Well, most companies have those two constraints, but startups in particular have those two main constraints: time and money. If you're a startup, you know what I'm talking about. Because of that, one of the advantages of a startup is their speed and flexibility in order to utilize or to make the most out of those finite resources. They're able to deliver things fast, and they are able to pivot and change course when needed as quickly as possible. However, those advantages that classical startups have, those advantages starting to diminish because now, regardless of the size of the company, now you have organization can be fast as well. They can be flexible because of the new capabilities that generative AI give those companies. So, to that end, as a startup, you need to adapt. You need to be able to make use of those new capabilities. Of course, this disruption on how things are done, this is not new. This happened in the past, in the 1990s, in 2000, when the web started to take over. All the classical services, company services started to shift to being web-based. In fact, if you go to the S&P, most of the companies, in terms of market cap, most of them didn't exist even before the web hype. A lot of them are web in nature, or at least tech in nature. Of course, we all know about the smartphones and apps and how a new generation of product and services started to rise. And due to the mobility nature of those devices, new use cases started to become more viable. طبعا, of course, services like Uber or Talabat and so on and so forth. Now we are at the start of a new disruption wave, and that's the AI wave. And this is not an exaggeration. And probably in 10 years, we'll look back and we'll say to ourselves, why didn't we see this sooner? I will go through some of the activities or tasks or things that you as a startup do as part of your day-to-day work, and how it can be improved, changed, and made better by adopting generative AI capabilities. On the left, you see what a startup do. On the right, you see what Gen AI can do for you. I already mentioned the Gen AI capabilities, but let's go through some of the startup activities. So let's look at the market research as part of creating a startup. Of course, you need to gather and identify relevant data, whether it's demographics, whether it's size, whether it's competitors, you name it. Of course, you can do it yourself, but with generative AI technologies, you'll be able to find it quicker, and you're able to generative AI can help you with market segmentation and be able to perform it quicker and better. Now, when it comes to business planning, the most obvious thing is it will help you with scheduling, milestone, and so on and so forth. But what it can help with is the business canvas model, fleshing it out and identifying the different aspects of it for your particular business, whether it's the revenue structure or pricing model, or finding different business models or revenue streams. And we go to the difficult part, the fundraising, the money. Gen AI can help you identify the different investors and investment sources. I remember when we first started eMushrif, it was really, really difficult, to actually know who to talk to, who to reach out. It took a lot of time. A few weeks ago, I was with my co-founder, Adnan Shaili, I'm not sure if you know. With a quick search, pretty much, it identified 80% of the list that took us a month to. It's just the way you do things is different now. But it's not just about finding the investment sources. It's also about finding the most suitable investment strategies for your organization. It also helps with creating the investment deck that you share to your investors, and of course, it will help you the data lab or the data room that is accessible to investors. That maintaining the data room can be challenging and takes a lot of time, and it can help with that. Now, if you go to legal document, the boring aspect of doing any startup, Gen AI can help you pretty much read very long, tedious legal documents and really try to understand it and how it impacts your business. And also draft any legal documents. Of course, this doesn't replace having an actual professional legal service, but depending on the scope and the nature of what you need to do, it can cost you, can save you a lot of money and a lot of effort and a lot of time. One of the critical things that the business or a startup do is team building, identifying the right team composition, knowing the skill set that you need within your organization, going through a long list of CVs and potential candidates. That takes time. Again, you can do it yourself. You can ask an external service to help you with that. But now this can be done very quickly by a startup with the internal capabilities very quickly. The most important one is product service development. And this is where it's helping us the most at eMushrif, is with the requirements lifecycle, the specification of our solutions and designs. GenAI is extremely critical or it can help with the requirement elicitation, the analysis, the specification, or the solution design itself by able to identify all the different possible solution designs that you can have or that you can use as part of your product or service. But GenAI actually can be it can be integrated within your product itself. For example, if your product or service have a customer-facing angle, then you can actually use a term that we've heard a lot, chatbots, to automate large aspects of that. And that's one of the things that we're actually doing at eMushrif right now. But of course, you can also use it to automate some of the internal workflows and processes as part of the product itself. Now, if we talk about launched go-to-market sales and marketing, generative AI can help you with creating marketing campaigns, the marketing content, the actual messaging across the different channels. And when your startup is ready for scalability and growth, generative AI can help you with the different growth hack tactics, choosing them, executing them, and so on and so forth. The point here is that the sky is the limit. There are so many ways this generative AI can be used as part of your day-to-day work as a startup. You just need to be creative and you know where and when to use it. And just to prove it to you, I'll give you some statistics from how we as eMushrif started to using it. We were one of the early adopters of generative AI, specifically GPT, to the point that we actually built an internal tools that we use in eMushrif, where we try to speed up the content generation across different areas. And these are some of the statistics that I've gathered. Of course, they are rough, but we're talking about something from 2x to 3x performing gains, whether it's brainstorming, design thinking, product specs, planning, tender proposals, copywriting, and the list going on and on and on. But this didn't really happen in one day. Don't expect that, I'm going to use ChatGPT today, I'm going to get 2x gain. That's not how it's going to happen. That's not how it works. It was a deliberate and methodical effort where we had to identify where generative AI can help us, how it integrates within our existing workflows and processes. And we built a tool as well to even ease the process and reduce the friction. And we managed to get these performance gains. But of course, you don't have to do what we did at eMushrif. You don't have to build your own internal tool to get the most out of generative AI. There are some tools, high-level tools that abstract some of these details to you. For example, Mixo. I mean, this is something very relevant to startups very specifically. If you're doing any kind of smoke testing and you want to create an entire website with a short description within minutes and then just launch it and see whether people are interested. That's something that you can do. And if you're a startup that is tech in nature, probably all your developers already use Copilot, or they insisted that they use Copilot because it really speeds up the productivity and the generation of code dramatically. But as a startup, don't just focus on what is available, what is available right now, and what are the tools that exist now, right now. Just think about where this is going, what will happen in the not very far future. Customers will expect personalized services, personalized for them, for their needs, and if you don't do it, your competitors will do it. It's a matter of time. Expect creative cobots in any kind of work. Now, I did mention Copilot, that's mainly for developers, but expect it for any kind of work. You will have a cobot helping you generate content, ideate, and just create value. Expect that employers expect fluid skill set from their employees. You're still going to need staff to be specialized in specific areas, but now there is going to be an expectation of having a more general fluid skill set due to the fact that you have generative AI that helps you to create value. Expect agile decision making. Hello? Yeah. Expect agile decision making. Now, why do I say this? You now, due to the nature of generative AI that is able to ingest large amount of data, a big context from that is relevant to your organization, to your market, to competitors, and so on and so forth. Decision making now can be done much, much quicker. Again, if you don't do it, your competitors will do it. Now, we talked about automation earlier, but the automation that we currently have is predetermined. You're going to have automation, it's predetermined, A, B, C, D will happen. But expect custom automation in the future to be customizable and dynamic, where not everything is predetermined. It will be more dynamic in nature. Of course, expect personalized training and expect recruitment and job seeking to be AI assisted. So these are some of the things that you might that you will expect in the future, and probably some things that we haven't thought of yet. Now, what can you do? What you should do as a startup? How do you get yourself ready for this new wave, for this new disruption wave? These are some of the steps that we used at eMushrif when we started adopting these new technologies. It's simplistic in nature, but it works for now. You need to research and select all the different tools that are relevant for your company, your workflows, your processes. Now, there are many, many. Some are good with varying degrees of efficiency. You have the GPT-4 from OpenAI, you have the Google, the cloud from Anthropics. If you're talking about the text-to-text, if you're talking about the image, Midjourney, Adobe Firefly, and so on. And of course, you have access to more specialized one for search, like Bing Chat and Bard. Of course, there are some other specialized generative AI tools, the one that I mentioned earlier, and even more. But the most important thing is to plan and to be very deliberate on how you want to use these tools within your organization. We at eMushrif, we decided to build an actual tool, some tools to be able to make use out of them. You don't have to do that, but the most important thing that you need to have your knowledge-based AI optimized. The thing is, a lot of these technology that you see over here, they have limitations. Understanding those limitations will guide you towards what it means to have your knowledge base optimized. And once you have your knowledge base optimized, you'll be able to pretty much generate new content very, very, very rapidly across the board, whether it's for product, whether it's for business development, whether it's for marketing, whether it's finance or for sales, and so on and so forth. And I can go into details at the very end. If you're interested, I can give you some insights. Make sure to upskill your staff, because its value, you will realize the full potential of this technology if everyone's using it across the organization. And rinse and repeat. Just because this technology is quite new, there's always new improvements. There are always new tools. There are new approaches to how this is done. So Make sure to stay up to date. Just rinse and repeat. Now, I hope this gave you a glimpse about what generative AI is and how it can help you as a startup. Always remember that just like in the previous technological disruption waves that happened in the past, the top companies that are going to exist in the 10 years in the future might not exist now. And one of those companies can be yours. Thank you. And now I'll take your questions, whether it's how we actually adopted generative AI, how we use it, what our workflows, anything. I'll be...
Thanks. So I was actually reflecting when you're going through on the kind of different tools, because I actually used it, for example, for kind of a legal document. So it was like an offer by Google. And then the way it was written was like actually a bit complicated. And then I wanted to make sure what does that exactly thing mean. And then I actually took it to ChatGPT, and then it kind of viewed the same information but in a completely different way. And then you actually get the understanding, because it kind of separated the different ideas. But the questions I wanted to have, I wanted to ask actually are, so do you think this kind of technology was actually accessible by the few at the beginning, and then that actually allowed certain development, just like, for example, with the internet and so on? Do you think it was actually accessible by the few, and then it was released to the public? Because you kind of get that feeling when you hear companies like Google or even some influential individuals, when they say they're actually against having these tools to the public, or against sharing it to the public. So that's the first question. And the second question, it's a bit more on the thought process, because the way I look at writing, it used to be something to actually a thinking process. So when you write something, you actually try to think about it, and that's a way of to represent your thinking. And then when you have everything is kind of generated by an AI, and then that kind of may take you into different fields where everything that's written is actually kind of guided by a certain, software and algorithm. So what are your thoughts on this?
The first question about gatekeeping the technology before it's released. Unfortunately, I don't have any internal insights about what they do there, but I assume it's just for safety reasons. I mean, that's what they claim, so we have to take their word for it. So, safety with AI, because of its powerful capabilities, can be used for the wrong reasons, whether it's for generating fake news or whatever. If, that's the official reason why they're taking their time to make these capabilities more available to people. Yeah, but one can think, oh, it's an awesome capability, therefore I'll make sure to gatekeep it, so to stay ahead. I don't know. I mean, logic said yes, they would do that, but I don't know. Now, when it comes to thinking process, this is something I've discussed with multiple people within the organization. And the way that at least the majority of the work or the content that gets generated now, in the past, we spent a percentage of the time, I'd say maybe 30% or 40% of it actually thinking about it, the remaining actually executing and committing and writing it. But now that percentage ratio is changing, so you're spending 70% of your time thinking about it and 30% of your time actually writing it and creating, because you don't have to. It's the generative AI will write it. So it all depends on how you think about it. Now, you're absolutely right. You might fall victim into the trap of oh, I'm just gonna use whatever it gives me. Therefore, there are no novel ideas or creative ideas will be generated or will be created anymore because it's all just generated by something that was trained. That's and I think that's a risk you should take because let's be honest, majority of your work that you create is not novel, it's not creative. A lot of it is just creating stuff. So knowing when to use it and when not to use it, it's really up to you. So at least that's my thought about it.
Thank you. Really insightful presentation. A lot of things to think about. Now, in your own experience, as you try to leverage this new tool, I understand the prompt engineering becomes important. What kind of questions that you ask it, and how you ask it, perhaps the value is proportionate to that, right? So, if you can also give your experience around how did you mature in that part? Did you, for your team to um, go through that journey, did you rely on any sources that might be useful for us? That's number one. And secondly, I also understand these tools hallucinate. How do you differentiate between, is it a useful content or is it a, especially in the research area, right? These tools are known to create their own made up sources. So how do you make sure you traverse that path carefully so that you're not making any drastic errors?
Remind me of the first question. First question. Okay, prompt engineering. Okay. You're absolutely right. We're still at the start of this machine learning. I mean, it started in 2018, but at least for people using it widely, it's still starting. Now, prompt engineering is very important, and there are different aspects that you need to understand how to get the most out of it. And then, yes, it was a learning curve, because if you just give it all the give it the context, ask a question, and expect a good answer, that's not going to work. So the way we learned about it was a trial and error, really. At least when we first started, there wasn't a lot of tutorials, a lot of. Hello. Okay. There weren't a lot of tutorials, a lot of guides on how to do prompt engineering. But over the time and after a trial and error, we learned it. For example, you want to always say the things that you want the model to focus on very last. Yes, that it will improve the generation. So that's something that we incorporate as part of the tool, just as an example. Another example is that with the prompt engineering is that I'm sure if you heard of the term of 0 shots, 1 shot, 2 shots, 3 shots. You really need to do that sometimes. Like in most cases, you need to if you want to get very, very coherent and very specific answers. To the ones who don't know what is 0 shot and what's it's just giving the model examples of the answers that you expect, and it will try to mimic it, but for the new context, for the new question that you ask it. That's another thing that we incorporate as part of the tool to be able to, another one is, of course, as you know, these large language models very specifically have very limited context. If you're talking about GPT 3.5, you're talking about 4K tokens, which translate to 3 point something words. The GPT-4 is 8K. Now, also they have the 32K. Now we have Anthropics with cloud, they have the 100K. But anyway, point is that your knowledge base is definitely more than 4K or 8K or 100K. Well, 100K is a lot, but let's talk about the 3 and the 8. So we automated some summarization and aggregation techniques within the tools to be able to fit whatever we want the model to consider as part of the answer. So we pretty much did our own techniques to summarize it and make sure that it's automatically summarized and put as part of the prompt. So Yeah, so there are a lot of techniques that we used to be able to leverage the large language model, the ChatGPT, GPT-4 specifically. I can give you more examples if you want later. The second question is hallucinations. Yes, it will hallucinate. GPT-4 not so much. And we rely mostly on GPT-4 actually. It's hallucination is it doesn't hallucinate as much. But our rule of thumb in our organization is that if you are not at least at the knowledge level of whatever you're asking it, you need to go and verify the information. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the awareness, knowledge, skill, mastery, right? If you're not at least at knowledge, okay, level, whatever it tells you, you need to verify it. But of course, if you're already at a knowledge or at a skill, then you know whether it's giving you just stuff. But within our organization, mostly, it's not really used to create new ideas. Sometimes we use it for bouncing ideas with it, but it's mainly just to automate the grunt work. And if you just examine, analyze what you do in your day-to-day work, or at least your staff, what they're doing, a large percentage of it is just grunt work that can be automated. And that's where it's useful. Yeah? I hope that answers your question. Any other questions?
So you talked about AI and how it affects business and life in general. But how about students? If they use AI, will it slow down their thinking for the future or not?
Did Excel slow your thinking? Did the calculator slow your thinking? That's how I think about it. It's just a tool for now. Expecting, we should limit how our children, our students use it. I think that's the wrong way to approach it. Okay, maybe in the short term, because we're not ready, it's okay. But the medium to long term, it's just wrong. You just need to change how you do education. You need to change how we do things, how we do work. Because if we don't do that, we're just going to have a generation that graduates that is not suitable for the job market. So that's how I think about it. Any other questions? Going once, twice. Thank you so much.